I'm the president of Democratic Clubs of Greater Broward, and I'm here interviewing Ruth Carter-Lynch. She is a candidate for the Supervisor of Elections for Broward County, and we're gonna spend this afternoon, about 30 minutes to an hour or so, depending on how our conversation go. So she can tell you why it is that she chose this office, what was her calling. We're gonna talk about like vote by mail, trying to get everybody comfortable with the process, and what is she gonna do so we can ensure that when we elect our officials, the people we elect are able to stay in office for the term of their duration. So we're hoping on having a very good, lively conversation. But what's more important and what's our concern is that we want people to know who it is that they're voting for the day they go into the election booth. I don't want anyone to have that experience. They walk into the room, they see names, they don't know who the people are, they can't associate it with a face, they can't associate it with any particular issues. They're just, playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or something crazy like that to determine who it is that they're gonna vote for. So let's get this conversation started with Ruth Carter-Lynch. She's your candidate for Supervisor of Election for Broward County. And my first thing is always have her give you let her tell you who she is, what's her bio, why she's experienced, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Sandra, for having me. Again, my name is Ruth Carter-Lynch, and I want to be your next Supervisor of Elections. I believe in the sanctity of the vote. I believe Broward County can provide a process that's fair, open, honest, and transparent.
Absolutely.
I believe we can put that process in place, and it'll be a process that we all as voters can be proud of. And I know one thing that's important, I would like for every voter in Broward County to have the best customer experience when they come to the SOE's office, be it at a precinct, be it in the office, be it at Lauder Hill, wherever. I want everybody to leave there feeling like the SOE office understands that they are the customer and that we understand that they will be able to have a smooth transition.
Yes, that's really important, and I'm glad you talked about having a smooth process when we're voting, because this is one of the elections that I think is one of the most important. I was able to vote when they had the 2000 election, and that election was one of the ones where we like, oh my God, we got to do something, and it didn't turn out the way a lot of people expected, because that was the year that Florida we got stuck in that crazy recount, and they were doing counting chads and is this a vote, is not a vote, did it go all the way through? And because of that process, they went to a more of electronic way, and a lot of people don't trust that process either, right? Because I think the first election after that, you just kind of stuck the paper in and you got no confirmation that it was accepted. So, and the reason why I'm talking about this,
and you had people telling you, look, I went in and I punched for Gore, but it came up Bush.
Exactly, right?
Type of thing.
Exactly. So we went from a process that some people trusted and then found out that they had flaws to another process that people didn't trust. But the reason why I want to talk about that a little bit is because we're also right now in a very different time, right? And part of that is like we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we don't know what election day is going to look like. And for us, there are two different ones. So we have our primaries on August 18, 2000 for the candidates that need to go into a primary. And the election day for presidential and all the other stuff is November the 3rd, 2020. So What I want to know, so I know there's a big push for vote by mail. How do we get people? Do you support that? And if for those who don't, how do you get them comfortable with that process?
Well, Sandra, one of the things that, believe it or not, that's probably going to help a lot is the pandemic, is COVID. Because I think a lot of your super voters and people of a certain age group, they're not really going to want to come out anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be an easy sell with the vote, some of them, because I've crisscrossed this whole entire county running for this office. And I've talked to a lot of them. And some people, first of all, it's not going to be as smooth a transition as people think. Some people just don't trust vote by mail.
Right. So we got to figure out how to get them to buy in.
Some people want to go, and as a matter of fact, I had another interview today, and the gentleman that interviewed me said that, he wants to go to the polls. He wants to be able to have that paper in his hand or whatever he needs to do. He wants to know that when he left there, he has cast his vote. So believe it or not, there's a lot of people like that.
And we just need to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if there are people like that, we just need to make sure that they're safe, that they go in with their alcohol wipes or Clorox wipes or whatever. Maybe they should bring in their own black pen so they don't have to touch a pen that's somebody else. And, because no matter how they do it, we just want to make sure people vote, right? And then but that is going to be a challenge for the supervisor of election, because they're going to have to try to figure out a way to do this with social distancing. What do you think they should do to accommodate
mitigate that process? Okay. What I think what I suggested, Sandra, I sent a letter to Governor DeSantis, because regardless of what side he owns, he's still the governor, right?
Absolutely.
And I asked him to consider doing an executive order which will extend early voting. And the reason for that is because we have what you call ballot on demand machines.
Okay.
And those are the same machines that they use during regular early voting. So you can go anywhere in the county, regardless of where you live, and vote, because those machines will give you the ballot according to your ID.
And your address, where it is that you're registered.
Your address, right.
Okay. So one way.
That's one way, because, and if you extend it to 21 days, and I'm going to have a problem with, I know, I'll talk to you about that a little bit more. If we extend it to 21 days, we put in the ballot on demand machines, I'm sure everybody's not going to go to the polls at the same time. And they already just said that they're going to be having a sanitizer there. They're going to have sanitizer. They're going to have whatever they need. And this is what they're saying now, in order to make sure people are safe, feel safe in their social distance.
Right.
And
I would tell them to bring their own.
Coming up.
I would tell them to bring their own, just in case it's not enough there.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Look, it's all about you being comfortable yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you're like me, if you're a germaphobe like I am, I keep mine in my purse, and I also keep gloves in my purse.
Right.
That's just who I am. But at the end of the day, we still need to have all of that type of stuff available there for people, so they will feel a level of comfort.
Okay, so you recommended that we extend the early voting period to 21 days instead of the normal 2 weeks that we have. And I know that during the early voting for the presidential primary that we had March 17, the hours weren't the same, right? So, and the hours weren't consistent, because I'm a Broward County voter, because I live in Broward County, but my mother lives in Dade County. And the hours were like, one day it was 8 to 4, then the next day it was like, 11 to 7. And I think that kind of prevented certain people from voting, because I know it became a problem for my mother when she went to vote, because she didn't know what time it was, the voting was. And even me, I went to vote at the Civic Center in Miramar, thinking they closed at 7 and they closed at 6 o'clock. So what would you say about that? Should the hours be consistent?
No, here's what I say about Here's what I say about that. It needs to be consistent. The time needs to be consistent. If it's going to be from 7 to 7, it needs to be from 7 to 7, period. Whatever we start out with on that day, on the first day of early voting, that's how we should end up. All right.
I believe so, because
so that way you won't confuse people, and people won't make those mistakes. It's all over, and then we make sure that we communicate that to all of the voters in Broward County. Communicate that. Let's say when we every time we send out information concerning voting, we need to make sure that information is front and center.
The
that is
schedule,
on
yeah.
there.
Because I wasn't the only person there trying to vote. It was some people before me, and I'm like, well, why they didn't go in? And then I came, and there were people still coming in even after I was leaving, because we, you know, a lot of us had it in our minds that the voting ended at 7 o'clock during the early voting, and it turned out that that was in fact not the case.
And also, Sandra, here's the thing that I would like to implore to all the voters. Look, our vote is our superpower.
Yes.
If we strategically coordinate the collective, we can control a whole lot of things that's going on, and we can change a whole lot of things.
And I think when you're saying control and change, that means that we can at least put people in place and people in positions that are going to work for the betterment of all communities, right? Underserved communities and everything like that. So that's the power of the vote, is that you can put people in place and put people in power that's going to represent and do the work for the people and not necessarily for themselves. They won't take the position as a stepping stone for something else, but they're really there to serve the public and be a true public servant. But so there are a whole bunch of, you know, positions that you could have ran for. You know, there are commissioner seats and school board seats and all these different positions. Why is supervisor of election the one that you chose to run for? Why that seat?
That's a great question. I have an answer.
All right, that's why we're here.
Look, I was going to run for this position the last time had Dr. Snipes not run, right? One thing that I'm a staunch against is putting us in the position to run against each other.
Right, and split the vote.
Especially Black women.
Yeah,
because we are Democratic voters from the jump. All we have to do is get in there, split the vote. It's simple arithmetic. Get in there, split the vote, and then we're standing back watching, looking at each other, saying, wonder what happened. I don't have that issue, because supervisor election is something that I want to do, and I'm qualified to do it. Sandra, I'm a lifelong community and civil rights activist, okay? I'm a 30-year corporate veteran. And let me tell you what the supervisor of election does. And this is based on my 6 years of research. I've been researching this position for 6 years. Let's tell us what the responsibilities are. The responsibilities are, I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell. Yes. They administrate, the supervisor of elections office is an administrative position, right? Okay. They facilitate, they operate, they educate, and they communicate. And within that, the purview of those, in a nutshell, those areas, there are 9,000 moving pieces. Okay? That's a lot. That's a lot.
So you have to have some business operation skills.
Right. Everybody thinks it's easy. It's easy to criticize it when you don't know, and all you are getting is sound bites about what's going on. I plan to, day one, do a forensic analysis, Sandra, of that office from top to bottom. And now let me say this. I've done the research for the last 6 years based on data. You know, we get our information based on data.
Exactly. And you know, some of us don't know what a forensic analysis is. So for those of us that are not, you know, we don't have that MBA. Tell us what that means.
All that means is, in simple layman's terms.
You're talking to me like I'm 6 years old.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you like you're a third grader, right?
Okay, that's right.
So all that means is that the processes I need to go in and put a good workflow process in place.
Okay.
Making sure that I'm connecting all of those dots and be able to transparently let you all know how they all work together.
Right. Because there might be some positions there that are not needed and some that are, right?
Absolutely. Well, let me just back that up.
Back it up.
Because of my human resource background, that's 15 years of that.
Okay. She dropping all that knowledge on how it is that she's ready for this job day one. So y'all better listen. She's telling you how she's ready.
I hear a lot of people say, oh, it's a brand new day. We need to bring in new people. Well, let's not do that. You know, business, first of all, the SOE's office is the business side of the election process, right?
Yes.
And Business 101 tells you, you do not go into an office without doing the analysis, getting rid of people or bringing people in.
Right.
Because I'm going to have to take at least 30 to 60 days to really understand the crust of every position there. Now there were 84, now there's 70 something because he has totally decimated the community outreach piece.
And when you say he, who you talking about?
I'm talking about
we ain't gonna get into too much tea, but we just need to know when you say.
Yeah, that's the tea. I'm talking about Ananachi. When he got in there, he closed down the community outreach piece. And let me tell you something about that before we go on. That was one of Dr. Snipes' flagship pieces that she put in place. Dr. Snipes registered more voters in the history of Broward County during her tenure.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And we need community outreach.
Well, you have to have community outreach, and you have to have it in all four quadrants. That's one of the first things I plan on doing, bringing that back and probably enhance it, because community outreach and community activism is my baby. That's something I love doing.
And I think if we had if there was a community outreach department that was functioning right now, we would be able to get people to understand and trust the vote by mail process, right?
Exactly.
Because that's something that we need, because everyone may not be able to go. And then, for those who are going to be afraid to go outside, since we've been stuck in the house as of today, 2.5 months, and we don't know if that's going to last like 5 months, so for those of, those people who all of a sudden, becoming hermits, and they're like, I ain't trying to go outside because that corona's still out there. We need them to vote anyway. So
well, first things first,
team, they would be able to tell the people that they can trust that process. Explain the vote by mail for everybody.
Well, let's do first things first. Let's take it one step at a time, okay?
Yes.
First thing we need to do is make sure that everybody we know request an absentee ballot, whether they vote by mail or not.
All right,
because
request your ballot.
Yeah, you can go in, but that'll give you a time, one, to sit down and really look at the ballot, study the different articles or different amendments that they have on there that are really a lot of times written for attorneys only.
Not even. I'm an attorney and I halfway understand what they're talking about. And then they do this thing called stacking, where they have like 4 or 5 issues in one amendment, and you might agree with 2 and disagree with the other 3. And then you're like, so what do I do? Do I vote for the ones I want? And
what you have to do is you have to weigh how important the most important one to you is.
Exactly.
And then you have to weigh whether you can live with the other pieces of that, because it's all together. That's right. That's what you're talking about,
and
right?
That shouldn't happen. And I think I think now they can't really do that anymore. I think I might have heard something where they can't really do that anymore, but I know that they did that in the last one, and it was really it was just frustrating.
It was convoluted, and you know what, Sandra? That's also a means of voter suppression, because people they don't want to be bothered with that. We need to make things as simple as possible.
Absolutely.
That's something that happens to a lot of people. You wind up voting for something that you didn't even want.
All right, so tell them how they can request that vote by mail ballot.
Huh?
Tell them how they can request that vote by mail ballot.
There's several ways.
Okay.
Well, let me just say this. I was on a call with Antonaci with the NAACP last week, and they stated that they had already received over 200,000 vote by mail requests, right?
That's okay. Isn't there like 1.2 million voters in Broward County, though?
In Broward County. Wait a minute, let me finish though. So what he's going to do, he is going to send out 1 million vote by mail request card to all of the active voters. Right, and hold on to that active voters piece so we can talk about that to remind me.
Okay.
To all of the active voters, and that's a request card. Yeah. Just want to be clear, it's not your ballot. You have to request that. So the key about that request card, when you get it, you should fill it out anyway, for 2 reasons, Sandra. It updates your signature.
Oh, that's important.
That's so important.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you. How can someone, because I always do voter protection too, and I know some people got turned away in the 2018 election because their signature didn't match. So we're gonna go back in full circle. But so if someone doesn't know what their signature looks like when they originally registered to vote, how is it that they can find out what their signature won, and then how can they update it?
Well, one, and a signature, you're talking about a hard signature, you can't do that online, right?
Right.
So you call up or call, and you can don't have to wait for him to send you the request card. You can call up and you can go online and request it yourself. Okay. And because you got a hard signature, because here's what happens for a lot of people that have not updated their signature, they pull that information from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, Sandra, when the last time you signed your license?
Oh, for me, it might have been like 2000 and I don't know, 14 or something, or 16, something like that. 2016, it might have been.
Every 7 years, we go back and get a license, right? And then now we don't even have to go back and get it. You can renew online. We can renew online, so you don't even go back into the DMV and update your signature.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then that's a problem. Now they have a process what they call curing it. If you send it in, and they'll give you time to fix it. If you send it in and your signature, and another thing, a lot of people forget to sign the outside of the envelope.
Right.
We need to make sure we do that. A lot of people forget to fill out that piece inside the envelope where it says, my name, give your name, and it talks about you being a Broward County resident. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure we fill out the form in its entirety.
But if someone's signature's not updated on election day, there ain't no fixing that. Your vote's not going to count, right? So we need to do all of this way in advance.
We just need to take out all of the what ifs, ands, and buts, and make sure we do what we're supposed to do. That's what we need to do. You have time. You don't have time. They'll let you know. You can go online. Once you register, you can go online and see if your vote counted. You can go online and see if you actually voted. Okay. And then that'll give you time to fix whatever you need to fix. But 9 times out of 10, to your point, on election day, and when people are going to all these 577 precincts around here, and then by the time they get all of that done and get it back to the SOE office, it's just so much going on. Yes. It kind of makes it kind of hard for them. Now, I can't speak to that piece of the process until I get inside and really know what's actually going on. But what I can say to everybody, make sure that signature is so important that you update that.
Right. And so, and in that piece, so we want them to request that vote by mail ballot, just in case you can't go in, and then participate in early voting, because if you vote early, you can track and make sure your vote counted. Because if you wait till the last day, and if something goes wrong, there's no time to fix it, right? Because they're going to make their announcement at the end of the day. In 2000, they made an announcement and had to switch it, but we're hoping we're not in a situation where we can't find out who the president is on November the 3rd of 2020, right? So just in case, get your stuff together before that day, because this election is absolutely too important.
They have to report election, the on-time count, constantly.
Exactly.
They constantly have to report that. So yeah, they're gonna have to redo it anyway. I can remember here in Broward County, I think they said that Hillary Clinton had beat Trump by 50 point something, and he had 49 point something, if I'm remembering it right. But I'll put it out there if anybody wants the actual stats. And when they did the recount,
yes,
he had more votes than she did.
Yes, and but in the 2018 election, we had the same problem. Our governor race was like point percentage difference. Our senator race was the percentages was a matter of just numbers. We had several races. I think the agricultural race was also close, but we had like 3 or 4 races, very important positions that came down to a matter of numbers. It could have been like, if it was like 10 more Democrats in each precinct that voted, we'd be living in a different state.
Let me ask you something, Sandra. And there's also something when you go to, that's another drawback. When you go to the precincts to vote on election day, and you're not in the right place, you can do what they call a provisional ballot.
Yes.
And sometimes they count them and sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they don't.
It depends on what the status of the election is.
Right.
So you can't be, I wouldn't take a chance.
Not in 2020.
Not in 2020. You need to fill out a real ballot. That's the reason why vote by mail is so important. Because it comes to your house. You can sit at your kitchen table. You can go over it. You can get to know people. And that's the reason why these type of interviews that you're doing is so important.
Thank you.
They are. And I really appreciate you doing this, not just for me, but just to get the vote out. And I want to also be all inclusive, Sandra, with everybody, because everybody votes count. Now, some of the things, there are some issues with running the supervisor elections office. That's what I'm saying. People on the outside looking in, it looks like, oh, it's a walk in the park. No, it's not.
It's a lot of pressure and it's a lot at stake.
Not a lot of it, but it doesn't have to be. It's going to always be a lot at stake.
It doesn't have to be pressure?
Well,
there's always a lot at stake.
Right. It's always going to be a lot at stake, right? Yeah. But the pressure, you can kind of pull back on that with the proper procedures and the workflow process in place. Okay.
Well, what about these? Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but we don't know which counties were messed with during the last elections of 16 and 18. Well, like, what can you do about that, right? Because there's word on the streets that, there might have been some, funny business happening, and Broward County might have been one of those counties where some of that funny business is happening. They did
hack two counties. They did hack two counties. Okay.
And we don't know if it's Broward, but
we don't know what counties they were.
No one they won't confirm what they got.
Let me go out on the limb say this. If all of your other counties are Republican counties, why would you hack them? And I rest my case on that one.
I'm just saying what I heard. I just know they won't confirm or deny anything. But that's what I think. That's part of the job that's tough. That So I guess the supervisor election office need like a cybersecurity team or something like that.
Well, here's the deal.
If that's possible, we gotta make sure we gotta.
Well, Sandra, let's back up a little bit, because I know you. Let's back up a little bit. One of the things, let's back up. Let's talk about the machines, right?
Okay.
The machines, all of the machines that they use on election day, not on early voting. Okay.
Okay.
All of those machines have remote access if they were bought before 2015. Now, let me explain why that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Well, it should be.
It should be okay. Let's say that.
It should be.
It should
because
be
coming from a corporate standpoint, coming from a business standpoint, look, if you got 1,500 machines, you can't have 1,500 people there sitting there watching the machines. So you have to, if they break down, you have to be able to mitigate that situation by tapping into them. But the only problem is that leaves it open for a lot of other shenanigans. But let me just say this, that's not the only place. Everybody that has anything to do with the supervisor elections office need to have a heightened sense of security. Because Sandra, we pull data from the DMV.
Yes.
Their heightened sense of sensitivity is not like ours. We were pulling data from the post office. Give me a break.
Okay.
So now we have what you call ERIC. It's ERIC, which is they give a better accounting of voters and correct addresses and that type of thing. If you remember back here, you may not remember, but remember they sent out notices to everybody, to super voters, some super voters, telling them that they were putting on that.
I don't know what you got to do to be a super voter. I'm always voting, but I don't know if I'm a super voter though.
Well, have you voted in every election?
Everyone since I became a citizen.
So you're a super voter, darling.
Everyone since I became a citizen. I wasn't born here, but I
but that's okay.
I think like in 96 or something. So I've been voting since then.
So you understand what that means. You
I
had a
understand
say.
the value of the vote. I really do.
Exactly. And
My
that's
parents
what
were from
that's all
Haiti.
about.
People die on election day in Haiti, so I understand the power of the vote.
Look, they died on election day in the United States for a long time.
Yes,
Okay.
I understand the value.
And I know everybody want to talk. Let's pause for a minute, Sandra, and let's talk a little bit about what's going on, if you don't mind.
Let's talk about what's going on.
I understand the uprising, and that's what I'm going to call it. Because I think the millennials and and not just them, all of us, we have been so tired of these oppressive issues and these oppressive laws and the oppressive judicial system. George Floyd was the spark that set the fire.
Yes.
To sit there and watch that man be murdered by law enforcement, the people that's supposed to protect and serve. I don't have even words for that. So, I know when I saw it, it was crazy. So now, let me just say this, and I know COVID is out there and everybody's upset because all of the kids are COVID. I'm like saying, young people, put your mask on. Please if nothing else, put your mask on. Yes, okay, yes. You can do that. Put your mask on. I get it. Trust me, because at some point you get to a point something is so important, Sandra, that you're willing to risk everything for that. I'm one of those people. I know, and our ancestor did risk everything for it. It was they died so we could have the right to vote. So I get it. So let's not go in too hard on them because of the fact that they're out there. We get it because we understand. So this is their new civil rights movement.
So I have to tell you. So I actually watched. They had his service today on TV,
saw it.
And they ended the service by doing an 8-minute and 46-second moment of silence. Right.
I was there with it.
Mm-hmm. That was powerful. Right.
Yes.
So because if you're sitting there in silence and no movement, you realize how long 8 minutes and 46 seconds is, and Absolutely. There is no way. I don't care. You don't need no kind of medical training, no kind of nothing, right? To know that someone can block your airway for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and you not die, right? And since we weren't moving, we realized how long that was. That was a very long time. So yeah, and I can see why people are just like, okay, maybe if you had him in a headlock for a second, you broke his neck, we might be able to give you some excuses, right? But we're talking 8 minutes and 45 seconds. And to my understanding, he was, even after that, he was on his neck for another 2 minutes, whatever. So completely unacceptable, And we understand why, the younger generation, everybody's saying, no, this has to change. And again, one of the reasons why I'm talking to you, because we do understand the importance of the vote. We understand why the vote needs to count. And the main reason I want to do stuff like this is because we need to understand and we need to know who we are voting for. We need to know who we are voting for, and we need to know what motivated people to vote, to run for the positions that they're running for, right? You want to make sure that everybody who vote, their vote count. We need to make sure our state attorney, our sheriff, our public defenders are, that these people are on the same page. And one of the things for right now that I think is in the forefront is that they got to be real serious about criminal justice reform, because we don't, we shouldn't have another person die that way. And then in the reaction that the world had, because this wasn't even only just in Minneapolis. People started, going to marches.
All over all 50 states, darling.
Paris,
all
France,
50 states.
All over the world. So we don't want, in order for to not have those kind of reactions again, people really have to be committed to criminal justice reform, and we have to get the right people in place that are committed to that. Because if that's not part of their agenda, we're going to be living in a police state. Because people are just like, nah, you can't be killing people sitting on their, with your knee on their neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. People are not going to tolerate too much more.
Seven, we have to change this system across the board, okay? Right. Even with COVID, think about it, healthcare.
Exactly, yeah.
We have to have the concern for the collective top of mind. Exactly. I have to know that when I'm in office, I need to bring people in there with not just an opinion, because opinion without heart is a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And we have to start from top to bottom. If you're not at the, look, I was at a meeting this morning, and the organization that they should remain nameless for right now, right?
Okay.
They've been in business for 30 years. They've had this organization for 30 years. And there has never, in the organization, the people that they're serving are minority majority. You got me?
I get you.
And nobody that's on the executive level look like any of those people that they're representing. Nobody.
That needs to change.
That's a problem. That's a problem. So they need to change their structure. Look, we've got to, with all of these major corporations, and then let's talk about, when we're talking about, they talk about looting and all that kind of stuff, Sandra. The CARES Act that they just put out here, the biggest looters was the $500 million that they gave to the millionaires and billionaires. Those are the biggest looters. What did we get? What did we get? Okay, what did we get? We got $1,200. How about that? And guess what? But here's the deal. It's our money. Those are our tax dollars. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna give all the money to the people, not give it. That's stealing. They stole too. They still, so they can't talk about nobody else stealing. Don't even get me on my soapbox with that one. But anyway. Right,
exactly. All right. So now, we've been talking for like 40 minutes. So you give us some ideas. You're encouraging people to vote by mail. You talked about all of the precincts. Make sure everybody be COVID ready. If they don't, if they don't trust the vote by mail process, even though they can track it, tell them why should they vote for you and not one of the other fellas in the race.
Because I'm ready day one.
Day one.
To go in and start putting processes.
1 day, she said day one.
Day one. To start putting processes and procedures in place. I don't need on-the-job training for this, because Sandra, I told you I've been researching it for 6 years. I need to go in there, get to know the people, and make sure that I'm not talking about getting rid of my intellectual properties when I first get in there. That's what everybody's talking about. What are we going to bring in the new staff? Why?
Right.
First you find out what you have there. Then you make sure that you put them on a track for improvement, or on a track for them to make sure that they're making strides in their job. That's the first thing. That's that human resource stuff I was telling you about. But there's another piece. When you get in there, you have to have some experience, because I've supervised up to 1,000, maybe sometimes 2,000 people, depending on what the situation is. At any given time with the Supervisor of Elections Office, and they can tell you this, depending on the type of election it is, you can be dealing with anywhere from 250 people, and some of them volunteers, and some of them are temporary people, right?
Right.
And for major elections, it can be as many as 7,500 people. For the simple reason is because you got 577 precincts.
Yes, and you have to bring them in.
And they all need the same level of attention. And then I want to make sure when we do put everything in place, and here's the beauty of it, because I don't go in office until 2021, January 2021.
That's right.
Then the next major election is not until 18 months later.
Exactly.
So that gives me, that's a perfect storm. That gives me time to do that analysis and to put processes and procedures in place, and to bring back the voter outreach department. That gives me time to do that and to do it properly. And everybody that's ever had employees that work for them and people that work, look, that's not an easy task. Right. You have to know, and everybody don't want to work for everybody.
Yes.
Right? So you have to develop a system within the process that can deal with people effectively. And before we move on, Samuel, I told you to hold that thought.
Yes.
There were, when I took a look last year in July, there were 70 75,000 inactive voters.
How do you become an inactive voter?
Well, you haven't voted in the last 2 elections or the last two years. That's how you become an inactive.
We shouldn't have that.
Yeah, but that was something that I don't know, and I think if my memory serves me well, I think last time somebody said that there were 45,000 Blacks that was on the inactive voter list.
We have to change that. And we saw what happened with purge. I mean, I don't know, purging is the word that they use.
No,
I know we saw that happen in Georgia.
You call it purging.
And we saw what happened when they did that in Georgia.
I have to say voter data maintenance, okay? It's called voter data maintenance according to the state statute.
Oh, that's what it's called. Okay, so we saw what happened when they did voter data maintenance in the state of Georgia.
But you can say purge. You can say purge. I'm just giving the proper term for it.
That happening in Florida.
Oh, but it's happening already. That's what I'm telling you. This is just Broward alone, Sandra, with the 75,000 voters that was on inactive. Now, having said that, that's a real simple fix, okay? All they have to do is go in, especially when they fill out the request card, they become an active voter anyway. All right, that's another thing.
You keep talking about this go in. Like, I done been to downtown for a lot of days.
Not go in, I'm sorry.
Pay for parking.
No. Not go in. You can go on
parking.
You can go online.
Okay.
You can go on. Let me tell you. I always say, because I'm always going in, but that's old. It's old. We can't do that. You can go online and find out what your status is.
Okay.
And if you want to go on my website, you can do the same thing. My website is www.voteforruth2020.com. And on the page that says vote, the first thing that comes up on that is check your voter status. And that's as simple. It takes 2.3 seconds to check your voter status, okay? And you can do it both. The check mark on that page, it says check your voter status. You can do it on the SOE. They have one right on the front page. It says check your voter status. And everybody should check their voter status, because my concern is, I know we're registering a lot of people. Let's try to get these people that are already on the rolls to go to check their status and change it, right? So we can do that. And that's very, very important. And it's not to the suppressors, it's not to their benefit to talk about that.
Right.
But that's very, very important, because think about it.
The right platform, they shouldn't be scared, right? You should want everybody to vote if you're confident in your position.
Thank you. But it's not about position. This is politics, baby. Politics. Okay? It's different. It's a difference. This is politics. Regardless, even though it is an administrative position, even though it's all those 5 things I talked about, you still got that element of politics in it. Okay. And the beautiful thing about me, Sandra, politics don't scare me. I spent 7 years in Washington, D.C., lobbying on behalf of minorities and women during the 7 years that Clinton was in office, and trying to make sure that we had a stake in the economic then it was $850 billion industry, which is SBA, the Department of Transportation, aviation. It was a lot of them, and we were getting 3%. And they was all put it in the minority.
He left some money. We ain't had no money since, but when he left, there was a surplus.
And then that's another thing. There's a whole lot of things we have to take a look at, and I'm gonna leave it alone. When we're talking about minorities, they throw everybody in the pot, and that includes Caucasian females, right? So that's everybody.
I heard that they benefited from affirmative action. We ain't gonna start no trouble. So you trying to get
we ain't gonna start no trouble, because I used to be an affirmative action administrator at 7 Philip Morris. Okay, we're not gonna start trouble. I know that's another thing. I know how to stay out of trouble too.
Yes. Don't get me in trouble. All right. So what type of person should be the supervisor of election? I know you said you qualify, but what kind of characteristic, what kind of person you think would make the ideal candidate for the supervisor of election?
You have to be honest. You have to also understand that whatever, even though I'm a Democrat, Sandra, when it comes to dealing with that office, I have to treat everybody the same.
Right.
I have to put my ideas, because it's all about the making sure the process work, and the process should work for everybody, regardless if you're Democrat, independent, Republican. I have to make sure that that customer service piece is job one. That's the first thing.
Right.
Second thing, I have to know how to deal with people. Everybody don't know how to deal with people. That takes a time. And let me just tell you, you and I both know, people are not nice all the time. Okay. Right. And so the way I deal with that is, most of the times when you have a difficult situation, they're not necessarily mad at you. They're mad at what they're mad at. So I just don't take it personal. Right. And sometimes they just want to hear themselves talk about it. So, but when I was the supervisor for AT&T for the call center, I told all of my team members, look, give me the hard calls. Don't spend a lot of time arguing with anybody on the phone call. Right. Give it to me, because here's my first question when I get on the phone, Sandra. Now, what would you like for me to do about that?
And then I'll see if I could do it.
Absolutely.
So I'm the worst person to be on the phone. So, because I know when you guys are trying to play those games, and I be like, listen, don't talk to me like I'm stupid, And
most of us, most of the time, what I do is I say, oh, this is somebody just want me to listen. And then also, when you have in a certain situation, you should already know what you can and cannot do for that person.
Right.
Because you're in that position. So you already should know what you can. You need to know how to de-escalate.
Absolutely. And I'm not unreasonable. I just, I'm not
Sandra,
unless there's a real problem. So
that's relative whether you're.
So when I call you, you better, be trying
reasonable. Not. I haven't phoned yet.
Give me some solutions. All right, let's see. So one of the things I remember, I don't know if anything can be done about this, right? So I remember when I go vote, there's always all of these people handing me all of these cards, right? Like this, that, and then I'm going in and I'm overwhelmed. Is there anything we can do about that? Or is that part of the process where there's like 100 people handing you cards, telling you who to vote for?
Well, the legislature, wait a minute. The legislature kind of took care of that problem.
What they do?
Because I'm telling my volunteers and my team members just to hold a sign and leave it alone. Okay. Because for the simple reason is, you can't go within 150 feet of the door. So, and nobody wants, and they're going to have people, guards around watching that, and that type of the poll watchers and attorneys around for all of that. But I think that was part of the problem for the same very thing that you just said that you can't stand. That's why they pushed that back. Okay. And so you probably won't get that. And let me just tell you another thing. With COVID out here, I won't be surprised if they kind of outlaw that a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to have to get out my face. I'm be like, listen, I don't care if you have a mask on. I don't want to talk to you. I barely see my mama these days, and I love her.
I'm going to have to run that up the flagpole, Sandra, and see what they plan to do about that. But then on the flip side of that, Sandra, yes, a lot of our people out here, that's how they make money to survive a lot of the time. Absolutely. It really is. So, it's 6 in one hand and half a dozen in another one, but we've got to do one. Here again, we have to follow the state statute, right?
Absolutely.
And here again, we have to be mindful of the other situations as well. And we have to try to come together and work with that situation how the best we can. Let me just tell you, this is not going to be a walk in the park. It really isn't. And I can't wait to see the new data and how much it's going to cost, because he's had to go back and ask for money to send out the 1 million request card. He's asked for money for more machines, for the ballot on demand machines. He's asked for more money for people. You have to have, first of all, one of the things when I was looking at the budget, the proposed 2020 budget, I didn't see a contingency plan in it. So that's something that's stuck in my head. I need to make sure that once I'm there, once I'm doing my analysis, I need to put a contingency plan, a financial contingency plan in place, just in case we have something else. And I don't have to be running back and forth, getting money. I can go ahead and take care of that. See, there's a lot of little bitty things that'll make the transition smooth. But like I said, let's see what happens, because this is a brand new situation when it comes to voting. So vote by mail, please vote by mail. That's going to make it simpler. And I'm telling you, with the vote by mail piece, Sandra, I'm thinking about depending on how they do it, and hopefully they hear me on this one. That should be done now. Instead of waiting until, having let's say we have one shift. They open at a certain time and they close at a certain time, right? Well, when I was working in a call center, we had two shifts. We had a 7 to 7 and a 7 to 7.
Yeah, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Yeah. Right.
And because at the time of especially when we're talking about counting ballots, we need to count those ballots 24/7.
All the time.
We need to count. And so what I will do, I will cross-train, especially my voter outreach staff, to be able to assist with that. Because you can't work people 25, 30, and 50 hours and expect for them to do a very good job. You just can't do that. Right. So that's one of the things that I think that we should do as far as making sure we can count all the ballots and everything is going. And one other thing, Sandra, I know I said I wasn't probably going to talk about it, but let me talk about it anyway. Because when somebody else see it, they'll probably say it. I would love to put trackers on all of the bins and on the trucks.
Right, because we need to know that car.
Yeah, let me tell you, with that situation, I'm married to a guy that used to own 2 trucking companies. So we were sitting down discussing it. And one night he was on the phone and he was looking on his computer and he said, I wonder why Rod is still in that spot. Why is he there? So if I have a truck come in, Sandra, if all my bins are tracked, if I have a truck come in, I know I'm supposed to have 1,000 bins and I got 950. I should be able to go back to my computer in the logistical department and find out where the other bin is.
Absolutely. Because I think after one of those elections, they found like 1,000 ballots somewhere behind a garbage can or something. I don't know where they found them, but they were missing. And they found them after the election was over. So yeah, we should not have that. That should not be happening.
And so that's one of the things that I plan to propose. We're doing research now to make sure how that would work within the state statutes.
Right.
Because everything is controlled by the state statutes. But look, you can set that on your computer center and find out where your UPS package is. You can set on your computer.
I track them all, but yeah. Mine's going to be Amazon packages.
So if we can do that, why can't we do that? And somebody else asked me they asked me another question I was asked about, what do I think about voting on your phone and voting on, technology is wonderful, and I'm literate. But Sandra, a lot of people.
Idol does it.
Right, Sandra, a lot of people my age and older, they gonna look at you like you crazy. You talking about
so I bought my mother, when you said it, I bought my mother a smartphone and she made me take it back. She has a flip phone. She was like, yo, the phone messed up. I was like, what you mean? She had it in like an airplane mode. So I had to take the phone back and get her a flip phone. That lady was like,
unless we're going to go to everybody's house and sit down and train them, and they're not going to let us do that because guess what? They don't care about that thing. So I think for a while, Sandra, we're going to always have a dual situation.
Yeah.
Because we live in Florida. And, Florida is supposed to be comfort for the seniors and all of the mature audience. They come here for comfort. They'll vote now. They do vote. Most of them are super voters. Oh, absolutely. They're going to vote. But I think they're not ready for that particular piece yet.
With the technology. All right, so we don't want to get off this call and end our conversation. Well, we call it a chat. End our chat. Our chat was long. Okay, but we don't want to without you telling people how they can find you, find what you're about, donate money. I know all y'all need money. So tell them how they can find you.
Just go to my website at www.voteforruth2020.com. And on my site, there is a place where you can donate. And I would appreciate anything that people are willing to donate to the campaign. And I tell everybody all the time, I don't turn down anything but my callers.
All right, and then what about your social media? Like, what are
my
you?
Social media? I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook.
So, what's your name? What's your name on all those?
I got all of my my handles. You know what? I don't have those all in, but hashtag Vote for Ruth. VOTE, capital RUTH. That's right. Instagram.
But on Facebook, they can find you. You're Ruth Carter-Lynch on Facebook.
Right.
And okay, so Ruth Carter-Lynch on Facebook, and then you're on Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram, And on LinkedIn, they can find me as candidate for Ruth Carter-Lynch, candidate for Supervisor of Elections.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So she's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and you can go to our website, voteforruth2020.com.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you.
All righty, my dear. Thank you.
All righty. Be good.
And look, I appreciate, again, Sandra, I appreciate you. And as always, I always believe if you want the truth, vote for Ruth.
That's right. If you want the truth, vote for Ruth. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too, dear. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.